हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतो वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय। 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 नमः पार्वतीपतये। हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम। हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranashchakshushrutramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। We shall chant the first mantra of the 12th section. Maghavan martyam va idam shariram attam mrityuna tadasya mrutasya asharirasya atmanah adhishthanam atto vai sa sharira priya priyabhyam nah vai sa sharirasya sata priya priyayoho अपहतिरस्ति अशरीरं वावसन्तं न प्रिया प्रिये स्पृशतः. Indra stayed with Prajapati, following the discipline of Brahmacharya for 101 years. So first he stayed for 32 years, and then Prajapati taught him that Atma which is seen in the eyes. Then again he stayed back for 32 more years, and Prajapati indicated the Atma present in the dream. Then again Indra stayed for 32 more years, and Prajapati pointed out the Sushupta Atma to Indra. And then again Indra stayed for 5 more years, and Prajapati is pointing out that Atma which is beyond all upadhis. See, when we are ignorant, we identify with our body, our mind, and we experience this world. So, and we experience a lot of sorrow and suffering. So, in order to become free of all these sufferings, we have to realize our own self, our own Atma. So, that knowledge of that Atma is given here in stages. So first we have to recognize ourselves as we are in our waking state. But that Atma in the waking state is as though enveloped with the upadhi of this gross physical body as well as the subtle body. Then we have to recognize ourselves as we are in dream. But even in the dream, we are enveloped by our subtle body. Then we have to recognize ourselves as we are in deep sleep. In deep sleep, we become free of all our upadhis, all the conditionings. And as that Shuddha Atma. But when we are awake, when we wake up, we again identify with our bodies. So the avidya continues. Avidya doesn't get eliminated with the experience of deep sleep. And unless the avidya is eliminated, we won't gain enlightenment or freedom from all bondage. And this knowledge has to be attained while awake. Sushupti avastha one has to contemplate in order to recognize the nature of that self. But when we think about it from the waking standpoint, I say I was asleep, I slept happily. That is what universally everyone says. I slept happily, I did not know anything. When I say I slept happily, means there was no experience of any sorrow. I say I did not know anything, means there was no, this intellect was not there for me to know anything. So I interpret the deep sleep from the waking standpoint, which is not correct. Because when I say I slept, that itself is a wrong notion. Atma never goes to sleep. It is the mind which sleeps. It is the intellect which sleeps. Atma doesn't sleep. So when we say deep sleep state, we are talking about the state of the mind, not of the Atma. But due to extreme attachment to the bodies, gross body and the subtle body, we fail to recognize that Atma. So here in this 12th section, first mantra, Prajapati is telling Indra that this body, not only the physical body, but also the Sukshma Sharir, they are martya, they are mortal, means they are gripped by death, means constantly changing. Hence, they are not the Atma. But due to ignorance, we identify with them and we experience priya and apriya, good and bad, happiness and unhappiness. So, as long as our identification with the body is there, we cannot escape from experiencing good and bad. We cannot escape from experiencing happiness and sorrow. But one who has transcended this bodies, and has recognized the Shuddha Atma, such a enlightened person becomes free of all joys and sorrows of both good and bad. So, ashariram vavasantam na priya priyes prasataha, one who has become ashariri. For such an enlightened person, the priya and apriya cannot touch him. So, how does an enlightened person transcend his body? And what happens when he transcends the body? That the teacher is explaining with the help of some examples in this second mantra of the 12th section. So let us chant. Ashiriro vayuhu abhram vidyut stana itnuhu asharirani etani tad yatha etani amushmad akashat samutthaya param jyotihi upasampadya svena rupena abhinishpadyante. Prajapati says that you can understand this with the help of this example, that ashariraha vayuhu. Vayu means air. Air is ashariri, means it is bodiless. Air doesn't have a body, it doesn't have a shape. Abhram, the cloud, also in its original nature doesn't have a shape. Vidyut, the lightning, in its own nature doesn't have a shape. Stana itnuhu, the thunder, the sound which we hear, the thunder, also is bodiless. Asharirani etani, all these are bodiless by nature. But due to some reason, they appear to have a form, they appear to have some shape. So the air also moves in a particular direction in the different seasons. The air moves from in different directions, sometime toward the west, sometime toward the east. Then the clouds also appear to take up different shape. People, when they look at the clouds, they can see different shapes in those clouds. Then Vidyut, the lightning also takes up different shape, different forms. And Stana itnuhu, the sound also take a particular form. It sounds different. It has got its own form, as though very subtle. But from where this sound, air, cloud, lightning, from where have they come? They are all the expressions of space. From space itself, the air is born. From the air, the fire is born. From the fire, the water is born. From the water, the earth is born. So all these are expression of that space. So from space only, as though they are expressing and existing with some form. And when their purpose is served, connected or influenced by the bright light of the sun, they again go back to their original nature of being bodiless. That is the example given here. So let us contemplate a little bit. For example, you look at the air. Suddenly the air starts moving and we can feel it. It lives as though in this space, having a particular direction. But then a time comes when the air remains still. It as though merges into space. In the same way, we look at the clouds. The clouds, especially during rainy season, during monsoon, so many clouds they appear, and they start pouring, showering rains on this earth. And during this rainy season, we can also see lightning flashing in the sky. And we also hear the thunder. Then, once the rainy season is over, and the sun also shines brightly, all the clouds they disappear, and there is no lightning, and there is no thunder. So where have they gone? They have transcended this space and have merged into that cosmic space. They transcend space in which they appear and they merge in the cosmic total space. So, tad yatha etani amushmat akashat samuthaya. So, transcending this space, param jyotihi upasampadya, connected with the param jyoti, the, the luminous light of the sun, Svena rupena abhinishpadyante. They remain in their own original nature of being bodiless. This example is given to show the similarity how this bodiless Atma also transcends this body and remains in its own nature. So that is now said in the next mantra. Let us chant. Evam eva esha samprasadah asma sharirat samuthaya param jyotihi upasampadya svena rupena abhinishpadyate sa uttama purushah sa tatra paryete jakshat kridan रममाणः स्त्रीभिः वा यानैः वा ज्ञातिभिः वा नोपजन स्मरन् इदं शरीरं स यथा प्रयोग्य आचरणे युक्त एवं एव अयम् अस्मिन् शरीरे प्राणो युक्तः. So just as the example given of the air, of cloud, of lightning and thunder, which having transcended their forms, having transcended this space in which they appear, they merge in that supreme space in their own, remain in their own nature. In the same way, evam eva esha samprasadaha, in the same way, this samprasad, this Atma, which is experienced in this body, free from the upadhis, this Atma, asmat sharirat samuthaya, having transcended this body through knowledge, through realization, having transcended this body. The body need not be dead to transcend the body. So, through knowledge, through enlightenment, the enlightened person transcends this body. So, having transcended this body, param jyotihi upasampadya, getting tuned with the supreme jyoti, supreme light of its own nature. Svena rupena avinishpadyate. This Atma remains in its own nature. So Uttama Purusha. This Atma is the Uttama Purusha. In Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan talks about three Purusha. The Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purushastvanyaha Paramatmeti Udavrtaha. Like that Bhagavan says. So Kshara Purusha is the one which is constantly changing. It is seen in this changing phenomenal world. Akshara Purusha is the one who expresses in the deep sleep. And Uttama Purusha is beyond both in its original nature. So Uttama Purusha sa tatra paryeti jakshat. And when one gains that enlightenment, one remains or one identifies with the entire creation. So one gains what is called Sarvatma Bhav. So such an enlightened person laughs. Laughs means, Shankaracharya writes, he identifies or he experiences the world of the Indra and rejoices in that local. Then Kridan Ramamanaha Strivihi Va Yanaihi, rejoicing and playing and gaining that joy of the Brahmalok also. So attaining or experiencing the joy of Brahmalok. See, the enlightened person, outwardly we can see the body of an enlightened person, but the person has transcended this body and is experiencing what we call the Sarvatma Bhav. So at the same time, he experiences the joys of Indralok and of Brahmalok also. So Ramamanastribihi va Yanaihi va Nyatibihi va na upajanam smaran idam shariram. Not remembering this particular body. The enlightened person transcends this body and doesn't remember it, doesn't pay attention to it, doesn't think about it. Na smaran idam shariram. Sa yatha prayogya acharane yukta evam eva ayam asmin sharire prano yuktaha. So this body continues to just exist, and it is kept in motion by the pranas which are attached to this body, just as the horses just as the horses or the bullock, they are attached to a cart and the cart moves. In the same way, the pranas are attached to this body and the body functions. But the enlightened person has transcended this body and he revels in the entire creation, even the attaining all the lokas, including Indralok, including Brahmalok. He rejoices. Now let us do a little bit more thinking. See, ultimately we have to recognize our own self. We have to gain direct experience of our own self, which is present in the waking, which is present in the dream, which is present in the deep sleep, and which really transcends all these three states of experience. So in the waking, what we experience is the Jagrat that Atma, what is called as Bahish Prajna in Mandukya Upanishad. In dream, we experience the Antaprajna, the one who knows the inner world. In deep sleep, we experience that Prajna. But beyond all these three, because all these three are experienced with respect to the upadhis, beyond all these three is the Shuddha Atma, which is called Turiya Atma. See, when we think about ourselves, I, who am I? When we contemplate on this question, who am I? I experience myself as a doer, as a knower, as an enjoyer. That is my experience of myself. I walk, I talk, I jump. I experience myself doing. When the body is doing something, I experience myself to be doing that. When the indriyas are gaining knowledge, I experience myself gaining those knowledge. So I experience myself to be doer, knower, enjoyer of this world, of this body. So the I, the doer, knower, enjoyer, must be different from this body, both the gross body as well as the subtle body. So that I, who is different from this gross body and subtle body, is the one who exists in deep sleep, because in deep sleep only I get separated from the gross body as well as the subtle body. So that I in deep sleep is also called Kshetrajna, because it is the knower of the Kshetra. It is called Pratyagatma, because it is the innermost self. So that self is experienced with respect to this body. But the Shastras say that that self, that Kshetrajna, that Pratyagatma is really the Atma of all the beings. That Kshetrajna, that Pratyagatma is Sarvatma, is the Atma of all the beings. So this we can understand when we focus our attention on that Atma and transcend this body. For example, this pot. So one experiences this pot, but once if you shift your attention, then inside the pot one experiences the space. The space is there confined to this pot. You can say pot space. So this pot is like our body, gross body as well as the subtle body. And this pot space is like Kshetrajna, like Pratyagatma. Though this space is not different from the total space, but when we say it is pot space, we are still identified with the pot. So when we remove the notion of the pot and just focus on that space, then that space and the space around is same. The space in this pot and the space in all the pots is same. Similarly, when we understand Atma only with respect to this body, the innermost Atma, then it is that Kshetrajna which we experience as the Sushupta Atma, as the Atma when we are in deep sleep, we experience that Atma. But when we transcend the notion of this body, then that same Atma is experienced as Sarvatma. So difference between the Sushupta Atma and the Turiya Atma is identification with the body. When identified with the body, when we speak about that Atma, then we call it the Sushupta Atma. But when there is no identification with the body, then that same Atma is Sarvatma, the self of all. So here Prajapati is indicating that Sarvatma to Indra. After indicating that Sushuptatma, Prajapati is indicating that Sarvatma, which one can attain by after transcending the body, both the gross body as well as the subtle body. Just as the air, cloud, lightning, thunder, they appear in some form during rainy season. They appear to have a form, but when the season is over, they transcend the form and become merged in that space. Similarly, as long as these karmas are there, our vasanas are there, we express through this body, physical body as well as the subtle body. Then we follow the sadhana of karma yoga, of upasana, and then gain knowledge through Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. Even when the body is alive, we transcend the body and recognize ourselves as that Sarvatma. And once we recognize ourselves as Sarvatma, we attain all the lokas and we attain all the pleasures of this entire creation. Because that was what Prajapati had said. In his declaration, he had said that there is this Atma, Apahata Papma, which is free from all Papa, and having attained which one attains all the lokas and attains all the pleasures. So that he mentions here, the one who transcends this body, अस्मात् शरीरात् समुत्थाय परम ज्योतिरूप संपद्य स्वेन रूपेण अभिनिष्पद्यते, remains in his own pure nature, rejoicing in all the lokas, rejoicing even in Brahmalok, and not remembering this body and this world, this samsara. He transcends this limited body identification. And this body continues to exist or function because of the connection with pranas. Just like the horse and a bull pulls the chariot or a cart, similarly the pranas are attached to this body and they move this body. So evam eva ayam asmin sharire prano yuktaha. Further, Prajapati, he says in the next mantra, अथ यत्र एतत् आकाशम् अनुविषण्णं चक्षुः स चाक्षुषः पुरुषो दर्शनाय चक्षुः अथ यो वेद इदं जिघ्राणीति स आत्मा गन्धाय घ्राणम् अथ यो वेद इदम् अभिव्याहराणीति स आत्मा अभिव्याहाराय वाग् अथ यो वेद इदं शृण्वानिति स आत्मा श्रवणाय श्रोत्रम्. In the beginning, Prajapati had indicated that Atma as Akshini Purusha, as present in the eyes. So how that Atma is present in the eyes is explained here in this mantra. That Atma is like space, all pervading. But same Atma expresses in this body. And the same Atma expresses in the senses. So that Atma, Shuddha Atma, expressing through this body, through the senses, present in this body, present in the senses, was what was said by Prajapati as the Chakshusha Purushaha, the Purusha present in the eyes. So that Atma in order to pursue this world, he has eyes. So through the eyes, Atma pursues the world. When the Atma wants to smell anything, then through the nose, the Atma smells. Gandhagrahan. When one feels that I should speak, then the Atma through the tongue speaks. When one has got desire to hear, then the Atma through the ears hear. Means the one who is experiencing through this body, one who is experiencing through the senses. There the Prajapati had only mentioned that the Atma is present in the eyes, but the same Atma is present in our ears, in our nose, in our tongue, on our skin. So Atma alone expresses through this body, through the senses. So when one has got the desire to see, to hear, to taste, then the Atma alone hears, sees, tastes through the senses. See, as long as we have our desires, as long as we identify with our body, our mind, we keep taking birth again and again in order to experience these joys and sorrows of this world. Just as when we go to sleep, we create our own dream and experiences the joys and sorrows there. In the same way, we are born in a particular body, in a particular environment, in order to experience the joys and sorrows based depending on the desires which we have, the desires with which we are born. So when we have the desire to see, then through the eyes we see. So who is seeing? The Atma only is seeing through the eyes. When we have desire to hear, we hear through the ears. When we desire to eat, we taste with our tongue. So all these experiences happen through the body, through the senses for that Atma. So the one who is experiencing this world, one who is seated in the eyes, is that Atma only. And when we follow the path of shown by the Shastras, we understand the nature of this Atma and we transcend this body, we become free. Otherwise, we remain bound, as though bound in this body. It's like the space. The space in this pot is really free only. The pot cannot catch the space. The pot cannot bind the space. Pot is very gross. Space is subtle. Pot cannot bind the space. But when one looks at the space with respect to the pot, the space appears bound. The space appears to be functioning through the pot. When the pot moves, the space also appears to move. When the pot dances, the space also appears, the space within the pot appears to be dancing. But even when the pot is existing, when this space comes to understand its own nature, then it transcends this pot and become one with, knows its oneness with the entire space. Then that space alone is rejoicing in all the pots. In the same way, due to our desire, due to our vasanas, we appear to be born in a particular body. And through the body, through the mind, through the senses, we experience the joys and sorrows of this world. So when we have the desire to see, we see through our eyes. When we have desire to hear, we hear through our ears. So it is the Atma alone who is experiencing all this seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. Not only through the senses, but even through the mind, the Atma alone is experiencing. And that is said now in the fifth mantra. Athayo Veda idam manvaniti sa Atma mano asya daivam chakshuhu sava esha etena daivena chakshusha manasa etan kaman pashandramate. So athayo veda idam manvana iti. When one thinks, when one says that I have to think, I have to contemplate, I have to feel, then the Atma alone thinks, Atma alone feels, Atma alone contemplates, and it does it through the mind. So, mind is like the instrument of that Atma to think, to feel. So, manaha asya daivam chakshuhu. So, mind is like a divine eyes of this Atma through which it thinks, it feels, it sees. So sava esha etena daivena chakshusha manasa etan kaman paschandramate. So this Atma, through this divine eyes, means through the mind, experiencing the various joys and sorrows, revels in this world. See here, the teacher from the body, from the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, the Turiya Atma finally was pointed out. And then the teacher is also saying that what you experience in the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti is that same Atma. That Atma alone is seeing through the eyes, hearing through the ears, thinking through the mind. So, in this way, Prajapati is, as he taught Indra Bhagwan, he gave the Vidya of Atma Vidya. So this section concludes. It says, Ya ete brahma loke tam va etam devaha atmanam upasate tasmat tesham sarve cha loka atta sarve cha kamaha sa sarvanscha lokan apnoti sarvanscha kaman यह तम आत्मानम अनुविद्य विजानाति इति स प्रजापतिर्वाच स प्रजापतिर्वाच यह एते ब्रह्मलोके तम वा एतम देवा आत्मानम उपासते. So this enlightened person rejoices not only in this world, but in the world of Indra and also in the world of Brahma. So, having attained that self, having gained that enlightenment, and having attained that Sarvatma Bhav, the enlightened person rejoices in the Brahmalok, in Indralok, everywhere. So, such is the greatness of this Atma. Therefore, all the other devtas also, they worship this Atma. Etam devaha atmanam upaste. The devtas also worship this Atma. Tasmat tesham sarve cha loka atta sarve cha kama. Therefore, these devtas also, having worshipped, having attained this Atma, they gain all the kamnas and they gain all the lokas. So Indra Bhagwan attained self-enlightenment. He shared this with the other devatas. they also worship this Atma, and all those Devtas also, those who have attained this enlightenment, they also gain all the kamnas and they rejoice in all the lokas. So sarvanscha kama yah tam atmanam anuvidya vijanati. So one who knows that Atma attains all the kamnas and attain all the lokas. Thus, Prajapati, he gave this knowledge to Indra. Prajapatiruvacha, Prajapatiruvacha. This is repeated twice to indicate the conclusion of the teachings of Prajapati. So I hope you could understand what is conveyed. I tried to follow the language of the Upanishad itself, but having heard this Upanishad and having heard other Upanishads also, one should contemplate and comprehend what is conveyed properly. So here, Prajapati reveals this knowledge of that Atma through the vivek of these three avasthas, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Because through these three avasthas, we can understand this Atma directly. It is the most subtle and the most wonderful, what you call, prakriya, method of Vedanta. The avastha traya vivek. Same thing is done in Mandukya Upanishad also, in much more detail. But here, briefly, Prajapati revealed that knowledge by indicating that Atma first in the Jagrat Avastha, then in Swapna Avastha, then in Sushupta Avastha, and then the Turiya Atma was pointed out, which transcends all bodies. Just as I gave the example that the gift is given to a person nicely wrapped. So he opens the wrapper and keeps on opening till he finds that gift hidden deep within. Similarly, that Atma is as though wrapped in these three avastha, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. So we have to, through our intellect, through contemplation, unravel this Atma and recognize it. In other Upanishad, the example is given of that munja grass. Just as the grass, it has got a stalk inside, which is attached to that root. So when you pull it properly, then it breaks at the bottom and the whole stalk comes out. Similarly, due to attachment, we are stuck to this body, physical body as well as sukshma, sharir. Through contemplation, through sadhana, we have to release ourselves from this body and recognize ourselves as we are, free from all names, free from all forms. That Satchidanand Brahma, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittaninaha, Nacha Shrotra Jivve, Nacha Ghana Netre, Nacha Vyoma Bhume, Natejo Navayu, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Free from all the senses, free from all the antakarana, free from the five elements. I am that Shuddha Atma Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. After this, in the last few sections, the teacher gives some more upasana so that those who did not comprehend his Atma, they can further purify their antakarana and know that Atma. And then this chapter will be concluded. So we will see this remaining portion in our class on Monday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana. Listen to the pravachan again, contemplate on what you have heard, and see you all on Monday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Boli Siyavar Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.